Welcome to the Small Business Made Simple podcast, brought to you by socialmediaandmarketing.com.au. Being in business is never easy, but it can be simple, or at least simpler. Join me, your host Jen Donovan, every week where we focus on marketing, social media, and working towards simplifying your business. You with me? Let's do this.
Gonna dream it big, 'cause someone out there listening. Everyone's got a voice to give, and it's time I heard you whistling, 'cause there's no point at all, in dreaming small,
Why, hey there, my fabulous listener. Welcome to episode 202 of the Small Business Made Simple podcast. Thank you, as always, and every week for lending me your ears today. I know you have lots of choices out there, and I appreciate you making me one of them. If you are enjoying this podcast, I'd love for you to take a screenshot of yourself listening to this and tag me on social media. You can find me at Jen Donovan on just about every platform except TikTok. Haven't made it there yet. Don't forget, you can see the show notes for this episode at socialmediaandmarketing.com.au/202. Before I get started though, how did you go with last week's episode? My interview, of course, with Nikki and Ness. It was such a good episode, wasn't it? I absolutely loved all their gold. Love talking marketing and business strategy with other people. So I loved it. I hope you loved it as much as I did. If you didn't listen to that one, then after you're finished here, slip back and listen to episode 201 and get some more small business simple gold back there. But anyway, let's get on to today's episode. This week I have another guest. I feel extremely privileged to be able to hold conversations and hold space with so many remarkable business owners through this podcast. And this week is, of course, no different. This week we're talking about something a little bit different. I have Jane Vandermeer from Finesse Business and Style on. And Jane is actually a personal stylist, and she has so much experience and so many business thoughts and wisdom and ideas that I just had to have her on the podcast. I really loved this chat with Jane. After you listen, please make sure you go and follow Jane on socials and learn a little bit more about what she does, because I just know that you are going to love this episode. And yes, Jane is a personal stylist, but if you are listening thinking, perhaps that's not for me, please listen in. Please hold space for Jane. I think that you will definitely get at least 3 pieces of absolute business gold out of my conversation with Jane today. So without further ado, let's have a chat with Jane. Hello, Jane. How are you?
Hi, Jen. Thank you for having me here today. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm super excited to have you, because this is a bit of a topic that is really important for small business owners. And even though, as you will explain, it's a lot to do with female business owners, but it's also a subject we haven't really talked about on this podcast before. So for my gorgeous audience who perhaps don't know Jane, could you tell us a little bit about who you are and your business?
Thank you. So I am a personal stylist. I'm a fashion girl. So I've been, I'm a trained or qualified designer, and I've been a fashion buyer, and I speak at and teach at university on all aspects of fashion and business, and right down to the sewing and holistic point of view. And I've had and created and sold and been in the small business space since I was about 16, actually. I started my first business. So
was it a fashion orientated business?
It was. So I remember going to balls, and Debs and things when you're year 10, 16, 15 years old, making beautiful gowns, which make me very happy. And so I made for a lot of my peers back then, and business began.
Yeah, right. So what does business look like in 2022?
Yeah, so these days I call myself a holistic, soulful stylist. So I don't make gowns or do any of that anymore. Only for me, actually. I still love playing with fabric. But I work with women on a one-on-one basis. So whether that is sort of ad hoc, like every now and then, seasonal, or when women have got presentations or a photo shoot, or sharing their magic with the world, or on a longer term. And, you know, in the last couple of years, changes have happened, and I never thought I'd be doing all of this online. I have always taught and run workshops and things in person, because that's, you know, it's a tactile topic. And it's amazing. It works really well online. It just, you know, with a change of or adaptation of your mindset and how you do things. And it's amazing how we can do that now. And so the flow on from that is it means that I can work with women actually now all over the world, which is wonderful. And I'm thrilled about that. Yeah.
Bit of a gift that COVID threw at you. So
yeah, it is. It is. After, you know, shock for a couple of weeks working out how on earth I'm going to do all this.
Yeah, absolutely. So for those who are listening that might, you know, have some questions around this, what is a personal stylist? What is it that you do for?
Yeah.
What do people come to you for? What's their problem that they want you to solve?
Yes, great question. So I think when I speak to different women, I think what comes to mind for a lot of us is, you know, styling celebrities or really
the Queen comes to mind for me.
Really wealthy people, taking them shopping, zhuzhing them up for, you know, red carpet events. So I did do that in my 20s. I dressed a number of celebrities, and you know, it was an amazing experience, but actually it's not what makes my heart sing, in all honesty. I love, like, it's super easy to dress a tiny little size 8 in proportion lady. It really is. I realized long ago my magic is working with real bodies and real shapes. So an example I give of, and this is the sort of lady I'll often work with, is a facilitator who is in small business, who presents and teaches and shares her skills and her business and her magic with the world. And this particular lady I'm thinking of, to give you a bit of a visual, her bust was about a size 16, her waist was about a size 12, and her hips were about a size 24. So she's not a stock size, really hard to buy off the rack. And her self-confidence, even though she was highly educated, she had her PhD in her area, you know, well-travelled, done all of these things, but the self-confidence about her hips and bottom was all about hiding that part of herself. And I thought, isn't that amazing, really, that I often talk when I teach about a mirror, the 150% mirror. A lot of women, when we look in the mirror, our eye goes straight to, you know, the area we worry about the most, whether it's your waist, your hips, your bottom, whatever the bit is. But the general public don't even see that. We don't look at that, but in our own minds, somehow we do. So working with this beautiful client, I taught her about shapes and colours and fabrics and prints and textures, and how to, you know, we did some foundational work and then we built on that, and then how to throw her twist on it to, you know, to not make her look really generic like an Country Road ad or whatever. Nothing wrong with Country Road, but I think it's far more interesting to find your unique, special, authentic look. And I think doing that is, you know, a bit from this brand, a bit from that brand. And so I don't come from the place of let's go and spend heaps of money and buy lots of new things. I come from the space of, okay, let me educate you with, you know, my 30 years of experience in the fashion industry, and just give you punchy nuggets of gold that you can implement very easily. And then we'll make a love pile and a perhaps giveaway or give to the thrift shop or sell pile. And then there's the middle selection. And what I'll do is work with you and show you perhaps how you can customize it. Like if you can sew yourself, maybe it's a case of some darts, or take something up, or we ask an alterations person to do it. So it's my approach is very holistic, as opposed to let me just take you shopping and we'll spend X amount of money. And because really what that does is create a Band-Aid. And often you're buying lots of stuff you don't necessarily need. So
or you can't say no to, because the person tells you how good it looks and you're like, really? I'm not so sure about that.
Whereas when I give you the tools, and I do it in a drip feed manner. I describe it like going to a counsellor, because our self-confidence, it gets chipped away over time. So it does take time to reinstate that and rebuild that up. And so I'll give you a bit of homework. Okay, let's go and do this and come back to me. And you can see women really take it and run. And at a certain point, so one of my biggest courses goes for 5 months. And you can see at a certain point, and it's different for every woman, she'll say, I've got it. I've got it. I stand in that shop and I look at it and I just walk right out, because I know the colours aren't right, the shapes aren't right, the textures aren't right. It's not my body that's wrong, it's the shapes. And it's like, ooh, this is good.
Yeah, wow.
Empowerment to me. Yeah. The work. Yeah.
So what's the connection between, I guess, business, personal branding and fashion?
Yeah, so I interweave them all together, to be honest. 9 times out of 10, I tend to work with my clients are small business owners, female founders, women who want to elevate their style, to represent where they're headed, where they're going. It might be where they are right now, but usually it's 2 steps ahead where they're going. And at the moment, it is often, because we've just come out of 2 years odd of lockdown, where we're casual and where we have, I'm seeing a big loss of confidence as a generalisation, loss of where do we go from a style perspective?
Okay.
Because we've been super casual for 2 years. So, and what does that look like now?
Or done up from the waist up. In a lot of my cases, I've got my tracksuit pants and my slippers on, but I've actually, done my hair, my makeup, and got a pretty top on.
Yes, I don't think you're on your own with that. I think, in small business, we're all about, a lot of us are about personal growth. So, we keep learning, doing new courses and keep growing. So to me, our branding needs to reflect that. I've just done a new photo shoot a couple of weeks ago, because who I was 2 years ago, although those photos were beautiful, I feel like I'm different now. And so branding and socials and all the places we need imagery, they need to reflect that. And so this is how, to me, it's twofold. It's also because, I've been in small business in one form or another for 30 odd years. Small business and fashion are so interlinked. I know on the surface it seems superfluous, but actually it's not. It's really, really not. I've dealt with a lot of ladies in finance and accountants and those kind of roles over the lockdown, and you can see even just how this is a generalisation, I will add, but how they're sitting, the colours they're wearing, a bit like, don't look at me, don't ask me stuff, there's not a confidence in their presentation. And how I describe that is, okay, we get you in the right colours and the right undertones and the right shape. You walk differently. You command the room differently. You own your space differently. And when you do that, what do you think your message is like? How do you think you present to your clients? You know, your clients want to know that you know what you're talking about. Now, we all know what's on the inside matters most, but they've got to be congruent. And I think there's a big, I see it a lot where they're not congruent. Yeah.
I loved what you said a little bit ago about showing up as the future you. So it's not about and how much people change, you know, through their personal branding and perhaps even their business branding. But I know for me, I'm due for another photo shoot. Most certainly, I try and do one a year. But 2 photo shoots ago, I really embraced my ruralness about, you know, living in rural Australia. Prior to that, that was not something that I was prepared to have as part of my branding. You know, I honestly felt like if you weren't from that, people thought that if I wasn't from the city, I mustn't know what I was talking about, type of thing. So it was a growth for me. And then it was just like, no, it's time to sort of put that out there. So that was a growth in my personal brand. That was a growth in me. And, you know, and then sort of that showing up as the future you, I think is such a an important point when we're talking about personal branding, because we are all on the trajectory of wanting to grow.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And, you know, I think a big thing about what I truly believe is helping you discover your absolute authenticity and reflecting that. I help you reflect that within your presentation. So there was a lady I was on a call with a couple of weeks ago. Now she's actually someone you and I both know. She is an ex-international model, traveled the world, done amazing things, you know, gorgeous looking, got a great business now. And she wrote a comment and said, Jane, it is absolutely exhausting keeping up the pretenses. And I thought, A, I'd never thought you'd say that. But B, you're exactly right. Like when we are not our true authentic selves, which sounds so easy and is so not, it's exhausting. It's absolutely exhausting who we think we should be. Like your example of keeping your rural part to your story, choosing to keep that perhaps private and then really stepping into it. It's, you know, it's part of who you are. I love that. And I'm sure I am not on my own with that.
No, and surprisingly enough, the world didn't end.
No.
And isn't that just so amazing?
Yeah.
For anyone who's listening, what are some tips you can give around perhaps finding your authentic self through the way you present yourself? Is there any 2 or 3 common things that you find that people are doing?
Great question. I think in this age of information overload, it's a lot, isn't it? Socials are great. They're this double-edged sword. They're really great. And then if it gets you on a wobbly day, which anyone in small business knows what I mean with that, get you on a wobbly day and you suddenly wonder what on earth you're doing with your life.
Is there anything that the way you often see people dressing that they're trying to hide this, or people mix, like, you know, I suppose I'm kind of thinking, you know, when we were growing up, red and green should never be, or blue and green should never be seen. You should never wear pink and red. Like, is there anything that sort of that you keep seeing that people should address as far as the way they show up fashion wise?
I see a lot with black. I end up talking about black quite a lot. You know, I live in Melbourne, in the black capital, and funnily enough, I really don't wear black. I think people default to black, particularly if you feel like you've put on a bit of weight. Like it, you know, it is slimming. I get it. It's also very, very harsh against our faces. And unless black is a great colour for your colourings, it's often really draining and aging. And so I don't know who wants
I
to.
remember my photographer friend, I can't remember which way it goes, but she was telling me that on stage, black either doesn't throw a shadow or does throw a shadow. I can't remember which one it was, but it actually can make, your outline hard to see, like when people, especially on film and things like that. I think and that was really interesting to me, so I changed to navy. She's like, if you want to wear a dark color, change to navy, not black.
I suppose I would extend that and say it entirely depends on your colorings. One of the things I teach is about harmony. So we want between your hair, your eyes, your skin, and what you're wearing up on your
décolletage.
We're looking for harmony. So I have quite soft colorings, I need softness with me. If I wear black, I look, without fail, people ask me if I'm unwell. And so it depends entirely on your colorings. A beautiful redhead, she might look better in deep chocolate and as her black, and the next person, like a gunmetal color, might be better as her black, and then the next person a charcoal. So I tend not to give blanket statements like that. And I tend, how a lot of stylists might say, okay, you need to own a little black dress, a white shirt and a black pair of pants.
Yeah.
I would tip that on its head, because I don't actually believe that at all. So that works if that suits your colorings.
Yeah. It's very corporate mindset. But,
yeah,
and I guess a lot of the people you work with are coming out of that corporate and into small business, and it is a lot about building that personal brand now rather than the corporate brand that they've been used to. Yeah, and I think too, it's about really understanding why you are the way you are. And so when you understand that truly, that's what turns back the clock. When we are on Zoom online, it is like a photo shoot. And if you've ever had personal branding photo shoots done, you need your makeup to be, a fair step ahead of what you'd normally wear, and somehow it doesn't look that way on camera. Online is exactly the same. It's harsh, the lights are harsh, and if you're a little bit tired, and who isn't most of the time, it's pretty harsh. So I think colour is an immediate way to change that. The other thing is I'm a big fan of jackets online. I think it gives a great sense of presence, but not corporate boring jackets. Fashion jackets. I think a jacket can change an outfit. I'm a jacket queen.
Yeah.
But anyway, Jane, this has been such an interesting conversation to have around confidence, around body, around, building a business and building a personal brand. If anyone's listening who would like to get in contact or know a little bit more about what you do, where's the best place to get in contact with you?
Yeah, that's a great question. So my website, which you're welcome to join my mailing list if you like. I pinky swear I will never bombard you with emails, because I don't like it myself. I find it too much. Is Finesse Business and style.com. So that's probably the best place. Otherwise, I loiter on LinkedIn under my name, which is Jane Vandermeer. I am on Facebook and Instagram, but and YouTube. There are videos on me on there, and Pinterest, because it's visual. Yeah. But LinkedIn's probably the best place where I am really as a business platform.
Yeah, beautiful. All right, I will have the links to all of those in the show notes as well. But Jane, thank you so much for coming on and having a chat to us around all of this. Your wisdom has been amazing, and I thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's just delightful. Yeah.
All right, take care, Jane. Thanks.
Jen.
I really hope you enjoyed that conversation from Jane and took from it exactly what you needed to take today. Connect with Jane online and follow her amazingness online. Again, the links to Jane's website and Facebook and Instagram can be found at socialmediaandmarketing.com.au/202. But in the meantime, let's have a chat in the Like-Minded Business Owners Facebook group. You can join that group if you haven't already. And if you are a member, slip over there and introduce yourself again, because we are getting new members all the time. I'm sure that not everyone has met you yet. But anyway, just another great reason to come and listen to this podcast and join my community. But that is it for another episode of the Small Business Made Simple podcast. See you next week on episode 203. But in the meantime, if we're not hanging out on socials, let's get social on social. You'll find me on Instagram, Facebook, and of course LinkedIn. But whatever you do, remember, my small business peeps, as my opening song says, there is no point in dreaming small.
No time like the present. Tell it like you feel it, say it proud, be true, and let us see you for the star that you are. No point in dreaming small.
I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land, the Yorta Yorta people, on which I record this podcast and conduct my business today, and pay my respects to their elders, past and present. I extend this respect to the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people here with us today as well.